Hello everyone and welcome to another Poppy Playtime Theory video on the channel. Today we're talking about something that I think is going to be a very interesting topic going forward as we continue our journey into Poppy Playtime. But before we get into this, I must warn you that this video is going to contain spoilers for Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 and 2, possibly 3. In this video as well, we're also going to be spoiling all the restricted video series that Mob Games are releasing, the analog horror type one. So with that being said, you've been warned, but while you're here, if you do enjoy Poppy Playtime Theory videos and everything in between, make sure you hit that subscribe button as it helps my channel and you'll be getting some interesting content and theories in return. Also, the goal for this year is to hit 100k subscribers, so you could really help me out. That would be absolutely awesome. Shameless self-promotion out of the way, let's actually get into the video. So, recently, Mob Games released the newest restricted video titled restricted_restoration.mp4. In this video, we are shown the story of Mr. Clark, Thomas Clark, or better known by Playtime Co. as Experiment 1199. The video shows us Mr. Clark's transition into becoming a toy and the experience that is tied with that. In the video, the timeline is a little tricky as it's shown to you in the wrong order to throw you off, I believe. You're shown various segments in the wrong order, but when you rearrange the order, it actually makes a lot of sense. Of course, I'll be showing you this in the background now. But of course, the big takeaway here is they started it on the ending with the 12-hour surgery that brings back Bron or Mr. Clark from the attack he recently suffered. So of course, after the VHS, we were left with a lot of questions, and of course, a majority of them were answered with this tape. But I'm hoping to provide an answer to all the questions that we have. Today, I wanted to talk about why the toys attacked Mr. Clark, as I think this is one of the most talked about moments in the video, and of course of many others, which we will cover at some point. First, it's best to recap and understand who Mr. Clark is. Thomas Clark is a 59-year-old and a full-time employee since 1955. 6 months prior to the recording, Thomas was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. This is very unfortunate for Mr. Clark, as it does mean there is a very large chance that he will die within the few years, or if not sooner. It's told to the camera from the scientist that Mr. Clark, of sound mind, implies that Thomas knew what he was getting himself in for and understood the risks and issues that come with this procedure, and that he volunteered for the experiment. But this is a in-house video report log. How are we to know that this is in fact correct? Of course, there is no actual evidence of him volunteering. We just have to take whatever the scientist said and run with it. And I don't know about you, but I'm not about to cash my chips in just yet. I still feel that Playtime Co. could be up to their old antics. One of the reasons why I might actually think that it's true he did volunteer is because of the amount of experiments there have been previously. Perhaps Thomas was aware of this, and of course, as they've mentioned, he was informed about all the issues that could occur. But alas, he still proceeded with this experiment. I believe Thomas had an indication that this experiment worked on many toys in the past, of course, working at Playtime Co. for so long. I'm sure he would be aware of this at this point. And I do think it's a logical thought to assume that Mr. Clark was very much comfortable with the outcome and what was coming anyway, so of course he did volunteer. But this is where it's a shame we don't find out his staff role, because of course his role would have been important. Was he low enough on the career ladder that he actually didn't know what was going on deep down below in the Playtime Co? Or was he one of the founding members, or someone brought very early on, even someone who probably interacted with Elliot Ludwig? That's information I'm dying to know at this point. But anyway, I digress. After the procedure, Thomas was very disorientated, very confused about his surroundings, and according to the scientists, they guessed that he was very confused and he didn't know where he was, and also had no idea about what was happening. They also mentioned that his mental testing methods were practically halved. But here is something I find interesting. The eye movement from Thomas as he lies on the operating table is not confusion. It's not unaware. If anything, he's hyper-aware of what's going on around him. And that goes for the light and sound too. When they ask him if they can hear him, he instantly responds by looking right at them with eye contact. But this is where it gets interesting as well. I don't think Thomas is confused. I think he's in a very panicked state, but for a different reason. To me, and I don't know about you, but he's looking with a sense of purpose. He's looking at something. He's focusing on someone. But he's not confused. He's petrified. But why? Well, I have many different thoughts about this. I, for one, think because of he's reacting to his new environment, seeing how it is for the first time in this form, and it's like the old saying, if a lion could speak, we couldn't understand. Alluding to the idea that now because Thomas is in this world, this new form, this new consciousness, with all these types of toys, perhaps maybe things are completely different to what we observe and they observe. This is why I think the scientists just can't understand or measure that metric. And of course, just go to assume that he is not doing well. And of course this leads us into our main part of the video. The scientists saying to make matters worse, the other experiments could tell 1199 was different. So why could they tell that Thomas was different? I have three main thoughts when it comes to this question. One was similar to the one that I made on the Analyze video regarding the fact that perhaps they were aware of Thomas coming into their world. Perhaps, and I possibly theorize, and yes, I know it sounds ridiculous, but perhaps they were told. Who by, I don't know as of yet, but it could be anyone from a scientist to one of the other mascots or one of the other toys or experiment 1006. We don't know, but I feel like they were communicated this point. Because as we can see, the scientists, they're not afraid of, and they don't need protection when entering the area with the toys. In fact, when they were in there, the toys actually ran away from the recovery team rather than at them. So the team is in no danger, which means they have some type of relationship with the toys. Perhaps as a precaution, they were told of their new guests in advance by the team. The other idea I had was something to do with the orphan children, and of course at the moment it's seeming very realistic, the idea that they were harvesting these orphan children and then turning them into these toys that we know of at the moment. Perhaps this is where the 1,000 odd of orphans went. This is why Bron or Mr. Clark was number 1199. Maybe many before him were actually orphans they tested on. But perhaps these orphans do recollect and continue their memory when transferring over their consciousness. Again, like with Mr. Clark, they probably have trouble explaining these feelings or even communicating in any sense. And of course, all they've been doing all these years is brewing frustration and anger and hate. And of course, they've got a member of Playtime Co. coming into their fold. They are going to attack out of anger, and I do think this is very plausible. But it's also quite a dark thought, because that means every toy that we've encountered so far, that one that we found dead or something in the Playtime Co. factory, that has been someone's being, someone's consciousness, some child's consciousness. And it's so heartbreaking to think that those were just kids. And these are what I like to call my safe theories. Now, for theories that I believe are totally out there and really require some double thinking, and they just get me super excited. So bear with me as I go into this next third and final theory. So the other idea that I have, and I think it's something to do with what's inside Thomas's new form, is Bron. So at this point we know Playtime Co. have been bringing the toys to life for a while, and while being very somewhat successful at it, again with Thomas being number 1199. So their method is working well. This in turn explains why the water treatment facility is so close to the medical bay in the game. And again, this theory is going to be a little bit out there, so please bear with me. And I think the reason why they use the poppy flower is so important is because it's how they keep the toys alive and behaving. Now bear with me. I think the toys live off a concoction or a concentrated element that Playtime Co. has produced through the years that requires the poppy flower. Now this is important because the poppy flower contains opium, and this causes a lot of problems. Now the Sumerians referred to it as Holgil, the joy plant, and while that ties nicely with what we saw in the Kissy Missy VHS tape, the hour of joy is at hand. I might go out on a limb here and ask, what if that was the term they used to feed the toys, the remedy that kept them alive? Perhaps the hour of joy was the hour they distributed this poppy concoction or poppy seed or whatever they mixed up. So, where does Thomas play in all this? Well, I theorize, and again, hold on, I theorize that keeping humans alive inside these toys is a much more difficult process and requires a lot more of the poppy flower than the toys, because of the natural organs, not ones that are artificially inserted like the toys that we see in Huggy and stuff, for the base factory toys, if you will, not the Playtime Co. employees that were turned into toys. No, they come with their own set of organs. But why is that important, I hear you ask, along with what the hell is this theory? It's because of the blood. It's all in the blood. I theorize that Thomas's blood is mixed with a high amount of poppy flower, and this is what's able to keep him alive and conscious, but also explains why Thomas's test results are so reduced from his human state. The effects of opium running through his system constantly. Of course, we can talk side effects for days, and there's one issue with that. Mr. Clark doesn't have a body to affect anymore. Every effect he is going to feel from this being in his system is going to be all in his mind, all in his cognitive power, all in his thought processes and everything in between. And again, this in turn explains the erratic behavior and underperforming in all mental exercises. Some of the main side effects of overusage is anxiety, disorientation, hallucination, nervousness, constricted, pinpoint or small pupils. And this is where I think it ties really nicely into the hallucination, because it could explain why why Mr. Clark is so erratic with his eyes on the operating table. Perhaps he is hallucinating at this point. Perhaps he's seeing the attack again all over and over again because of this abuse of this substance. And then that brings us to why I think the toys attacked Thomas. I think it's the moment that Thomas was inside that toy population, they could sense, they had the feeling, they knew what was flowing through Thomas's veins, or something similar. This is why their behavior changed erratically from calm and waiting to a feeding frenzy. They were all frothing at the mouth. Perhaps this explains why he was devoured and then spat out again, because it was such a high concentration of this substance inside him, which in turn made whatever was eating him throw him up. But this is why he has tears in his tissue rather than chunks missing. They wanted him to bleed. They wanted the blood. While I think that's probably my most out there Poppy Playtime theory, I think this definitely can hold a candle to anything currently out there. But let me know what you think in the comments below, and let me know what you think is actually going on here. I want to hear your theories about why they attacked Thomas, or whatever you're thinking about at the moment regarding it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it, and if you excuse me, there will be MI5 knocking on my door any moment now, concerned with my latest search history regarding opium. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit like and subscribe. We're trying to hit the 100k mark, and it would be really great if you could help out. And in return, I will be posting more and more content, especially on Poppy Playtime and of course Project Playtime, when all the extra lore comes out about that and whatnot. And as usual, have a lovely morning, day or night wherever you are in the world. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next Poppy Playtime theory video.